Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll hear from minority leadership at the state legislature. Also tonight, we'll have a legislative update from the Arizona Capitol Times, and we'll find out if the Super Bowl means an increase in human trafficking and domestic violence. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. Each month we hear from state legislative leaders on their impressions of the current session. Last week we heard from the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House. Tonight we welcome Senate Minority Leader Katie Hobbs and Representative Eric Meyer, the House Minority Leader. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Let's get started with the governor's the budget release. The idea's been out there, people talking, people thinking. What are you talking? What are you thinking?
Well, I think it's a budget that doesn't invest in the right areas. It cuts from public schools, universities, hospitals, and economic development opportunities. And so it's not a budget that invests in moving Arizona forward.
Thoughts on the budget?
The same thing, you know, when Governor Ducey ran for office, he talked about classrooms first. Well, this budget leaves classrooms last. I mean, he makes, again, cuts to our K-12 system. Our universities are severely impacted with a $75 million cut. Our community colleges are cut 50%. And, you know, this is coming off of the largest education cuts in the history of our state. Over the past 4 years, we've cut $4 billion in funding.
Regarding K through 12 education, now his budget calls for cuts to administration, but moving that money, along with, I don't know, $10 million or some odd more, over to classrooms. Is that not a good idea?
Sure, but really it's a lot of shuffling, and there's not really, we did the math and came up with negative 13.5 million investment in schools compared to what there is right now.
But the idea of getting more money to the classrooms, that was the goal. It seems like it's the goal of a lot of folks. It looks like it is at least talked about here. There's a plan there.
Right, but we're not cutting fat out of the administration. We're cutting into bone. They're cutting vital services that are outside of the classroom, and that's, you know, those are as important as in the classroom.
Do you think school consolidation will likely be rearing its head yet again, considering this cut to administration?
Well, consolidation, there is a consolidation bill again at the Capitol. Whether it'll make it through the system, who knows? You know, but a lot of our districts are unified. So when you talk about administrative cuts, it's important to know that those are librarians, our counselors. So what it means, since we've had such severe cuts, we'll have to get rid of our librarians, counselors, principals on campus, and so we'll be left, and it just leaves the teachers more and more isolated. We've lost social workers, and with the large class sizes that we now have in our state, it makes it very hard for our teachers and our kids to be successful.
For the budget overall, it sounds as though there's a 190 some odd million cut for next fiscal year, and then the idea would be to return it back to the budget in FY17, so that basically you got what amounts to is a two-year freeze, spending freeze overall, maybe a one-year spending freeze for education. Considering the deficit the state is in, are those bad ideas?
Well, I mean, obviously we're facing a deficit and we have to do something. There are, I think, places you can find more revenue. We've put ideas on the table, but I didn't get the impression there was a intent to put money back in a couple of years. I think that they're structurally balancing the budget, and that's the directive from the governor.
I think the idea is in a couple of years the economy will pick back up and things will be moving forward. Those are the expectations and the projections. You say?
Well, the projections for revenue growth over the next 3 years are flat. So, you know, we'll pick up maybe $100 million a year in the next 2 years, but just student growth within the school systems will eat into that funding. So if you look at per pupil funding over time, on an inflation-adjusted basis, it's gone down year over year. We were at about $4,600 per student when Jan Brewer came into office. We're down to about $3,600, and this again digs the hole deeper. You know, you talked about earlier the inflation funding. That inflation funding in the lawsuit isn't there. That's supposed to be $330 million, and he gave a little bit of inflation funding, the governor did in his budget, but then he takes it away later, so there's no net increase in funding. I think the other thing is just the choices that are in the budget. You know, he's choosing to incarcerate rather than educate. He's got $100 million in his budget to build 3,000 new prison cells. If our caucus were making the budget, we wouldn't be spending our tax dollars that way.
The argument on the other side is that those prison beds are needed, and even if something like sentence reform were considered, even passed, it would take time, and right now, according to some, those prison beds, there's overcrowding. They need those beds now.
The proposal to build 3,000 new beds builds in a guaranteed vacancy rate. So I think when you're looking at the situation we're in right now, prisons are not where we should be investing those few dollars that we have to spend.
As far as getting more revenue in, what can, obviously the legislature, you need a supermajority there for a tax. That simply is not going to happen. How do you get more revenue in? Republicans say lighten regulation, allow business to flourish, and the revenue will follow.
So there's the tax cuts that started to be implemented this year. I think we should be talking about a delay in those tax cuts and the implementation of them. And I mean, that number one should be on the table. That's not a tax increase, that's just a delay of a tax cut. But we've been cutting corporate taxes for the last 2 decades. So where are the jobs?
As far as those corporate tax cuts, we had the Speaker and the President of the Senate on, and they both said that, because I asked that question, why is it we've had these, everything's pro-business, and yet we're not seeing the results as we are, even neighboring states. They said if you'd have put these things in when we passed them instead of waiting for a couple of years, we would have seen the foundations, the blossoms of a revived economy. Are they wrong?
Well, there's no evidence of that. I mean, our economy isn't growing at the same rate as the rest of the economy of the country. We haven't recovered the jobs. We're one of a handful of states that haven't recovered the jobs that we lost in the recession. And we also haven't seen incomes rise in our state as well. So they've been in place, and at this point, we haven't gotten a return on our investment.
Okay, but the critics on the other side say, are you suggesting we tax our way to prosperity?
Oh, absolutely not. We would just make different choices in our budget. So you asked Katie earlier, what are some of those choices? And she mentioned some, but you talked about sentencing reform. There's a whole bunch of tax credits there that we don't know that we're getting bang for our buck. So the public and private school tax credits, for instance. We could fund the Department of Revenue so we could just collect the taxes that are owed. So there's a number of different things that we're willing to look at that just haven't been looked at in this budget.
Some other ideas, as Representative Meyer was talking about. Are there other things out there? I know the governor, I think, wants to get some more of those tax collections going and has actually put that into his budget. What else is out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great idea. We've been proposing that for several years. We've talked about loopholes in the TPT code. There's dozens of special interest tax exemptions in that code that we should at least look at to see if those exemptions are, again, giving taxpayers a return on their investment. For what they're taking out of the general fund.
As far as a Democratic agenda, is there such a thing? A, and B, how does such a thing get traction when you are in the minority in every single situation?
Well, I think that Democrats at the legislature have the same agenda as the Republicans. We want to grow the economy. We want to create jobs. We want quality education. I think we have different ideas about how we get there. And so that's, I think, where we are. How
do Democrats make themselves relevant, a force even down there, when the numbers are not on your side?
Well, we've done it the past 2 years, and it's about building relationships and finding bipartisan solutions that are the right thing for our state. So we did that 2 years ago with the Medicaid expansion and with the governor, and we worked very closely in a bipartisan way to develop a budget that was good for Arizona and brought jobs to our state, brought health care to the citizens of our state. Same thing last year in the House. We had our bipartisan coalition. We got additional funding for education into the budget. And the same thing is true with bills. I mean, we work with our colleagues, develop relationships, and if we have good ideas, they'll get a hearing and move through the system.
But it has to be frustrating at times, isn't it? I mean, good gracious. I mean,
yes, yeah. I mean, when you have a bill that you introduce over and over again and it doesn't get heard, it's a little frustrating. So But that's how things work right now. So
Oh, it's absolutely frustrating. I mean, I served on a school board at the same time I served at the legislature, and I'd be down there arguing against the cuts to education. And, you know, I knew firsthand when those cuts passed, I had to go implement those cuts down in the district, and it ended up laying off administrators and teachers, many of who I've known for years, and that's definitely frustrating.
All right, and before we let you go real quickly, will you be closing your caucus?
what?
Closing the caucuses?
Yes.
Absolutely not. You know, they're discussing down at the Capitol closing caucus, and ours is open. We want to be open and transparent. It's the best way for the voters to know how we think.
Yeah, Republicans in the House are
Oh yeah,
greatly
no,
considering
not
this.
on the agenda for us.
We'll hear more about that with Hank Stevenson from the Capital Times coming up. Right now, though, thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Each week during the legislative session, we get an update of goings-on at the state capitol from the Arizona Capital Times. Reporter Hank Stevenson of the Cap Times joins us tonight for the update. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me.
You know, we just talked with minority leadership about the caucus and the idea of closing caucuses. What's this all about?
Well, Republican leadership in the House, there's a new set of Republican leaders over there, and they say that these conversations are kind of always happening, but they're taking it a little bit more seriously this year. It's come out of some requests from members who feel like they can't speak freely when the press, lobbyists, the public are in these caucus meetings. So right now it seems like they're trying to round up the votes for a rule change. The legislature's actually exempted themselves from the open meetings requirements that most public bodies are subject to. But it is in House and Senate rules that these caucuses have to be open to the public. So they're working up the votes to change that rule, which it seems like they're stuck just short of the number of votes they need, at least right now. So we may not see this change come forward, but it's definitely been a talking point among Republicans lately.
It's really interesting because caucus meetings often are designed to inform the public of what their representatives are doing and thinking, and the idea of members being afraid to speak, that seems a little incongruent there.
Yeah, and there's also kind of a flip side to that, you know, this is a group of Republicans coming together to talk about the legislation that they're going to be hearing, debating in the future. They're going to have to explain their votes, or, you know, at least answer for their votes on the floor, and this, they think, is their time to kind of speak freely amongst themselves. So we'll see if they actually go forward with that change. But really, there's not that many members of the public who show up to these things.
Yeah.
Maybe a few people tune in online, but it's me and a handful of lobbyists, really.
I guess there's also some concern that some of the members were grandstanding a bit, knowing that the handful of people there were watching.
Yeah, I've heard that complaint. That was one of the things that leadership put forward, saying, you know, we're not only not able to speak freely, but then on the flip side of that, some people speak too much, and they're just speaking to you and not speaking to the rest of the room.
What are you hearing from folks who are speaking regarding the governor's budget proposal? What's happening down
You know,
there?
I haven't heard a whole lot of blowback from Republicans in the legislature as we've heard in previous years. It's still very early. I think everyone's kind of digesting what they heard last Friday. There are some concerns about how this shift of K-12 money will be implemented, taking away from the administrative side and putting it into the classrooms. The governor's budget director says, frankly, that there's no way to really be sure that that's happening, but we can ask the schools to certify that they're making the cuts from the administrative side. So I think a lot of lawmakers are kind of hung up on that. The other one that really seems to concern a lot of Republicans, at least the moderate ones, where they really need to be on the budget, is the university cuts. It's $75 million spread out across the 3 state universities, and it's an ongoing cut. So it won't just be this year, but fiscal year 17, fiscal year 18.
On those kinds of ideas, and whatever it is, $5 million for more prison beds, and the cost shift for juvenile offenders to counties, these sorts of things, does there seem to be much friction, or is everyone pretty much toeing the line?
I think right now everyone's pretty much toeing the line, and we'll see if that changes once they've digested the details of this thing and had some time to think about it. But right now everyone's very not trying to rock the boat, I would say. You get a lot of, well, I thought it was good, and I'll kind of look at it some more and get back to you. Not a lot of people taking the strong stands that they did against Governor Brewer's budgets and such.
Before we let you go, I know there's a couple ideas out there, proposals to make it easier to get rid of judges. What's this all about?
Yeah, this would take a constitutional amendment. There's actually 2 different proposals going forward. One is by Republican Representative Phil Lovas, who wants to make it tougher for judges to earn retention. If you see, down at the bottom of your ballot, it's do you want to retain this judge or not? They're almost always retained, despite their performance. There's been a handful in state history where they haven't actually been retained. So he's saying, it shouldn't take a 50% vote on that. It should take a 60% vote. His quip was, that's like a D-. How hard is that? And then there was another idea to allow the legislature with a 2/3 vote to go in and actually remove judges, Superior Court judges, Supreme Court judges, without having any real reason if they don't need to express one. I guess the idea is they're worried about rogue activist judges that might be out there making decisions that the legislature doesn't like.
Now, would that last one sounds like it would need a constitutional amendment. Would
them.
both of them need that?
Would have to go to the people for a vote in the 2016 election.
And I guess the irony would be that you wouldn't need 60% to get that through.
Yeah, that's always a funny one.
Yeah, it's always there. All right, so bottom line, we've got a couple of attempts. How far do these things, do you think, the judge removal, how far will that go?
I don't know. I haven't really been able to feel out lawmakers. It'll depend on kind of the mood of the caucus. I know that the Republican leaders, at least in the House, have been very focused on a set of ideas that they want to put forward. And I think a lot of this is kind of, we try it this year. If it doesn't make it through the legislature, we can bring it back next year because we don't really have to do this until 2016 when it would go to the ballot. So floating those trial balloons right now would be my guess.
And last question here. It seems to me as things are kind of quiet. You mentioned not much blowback on the budget. We just had minority leadership here. They were saying not the usual amount of bills being dropped. It seems like there's a calm. Is it a calm before the storm or just calm waters?
It could be. It could be a calm before the storm. But right now, I think the Republican caucus, at least, is really trying to kind of have a kumbaya moment. They've been through years of fighting between the legislature and Governor Brewer. They have a new governor up there. They're really hopeful. Nobody wants to, create any waves right now. And we'll see how long that lasts.
All right. Hank, good stuff. Good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Super Bowl 49 will be played February 1st in Glendale. 2 non-sport issues that seem to follow the Super Bowl are domestic violence and human trafficking. For more on this, we welcome Allie Bones, CEO of the Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence, and Phoenix Vice Mayor Jim Waring. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
The Super Bowl, I've heard this described, the single largest human trafficking event in the United States. Is this true?
Well, there's a lot of debate about that, but I know Vice Mayor Waring has probably some more information about that issue in particular.
Oh, okay, but I'm asking you, is it a problem?
Well, human trafficking is a huge problem all across this country and in the world, and absolutely, it's something that we need to do more about. And it's not just during the Super Bowl, but during the Super Bowl, definitely there are more people here, more opportunities, there's lots of money, so it's something that we need to make sure that we're paying attention to.
Define human trafficking and how it differs, if it does, from prostitution.
Human trafficking involves the elements of force, fraud, or coercion, where the person is brought into the profession outside of their own will. There's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of violence, there is where the person who is doing the acts are not paid or they have to hand over their money. So there's a lot of elements to it that take out any element of choice or free will.
And the idea that the Super Bowl is the largest event in the U.S. regarding this type of activity, is that true, and what does the data show?
I don't believe the data has shown that. I believe there was a study last year in New York that did indicate that. But what I would tell your viewers is this. You know, it's the second largest organized criminal enterprise in the world. I think most viewers would probably predict, you know, drug traffic being number one, but I would have thought guns, gambling, something like that. You're talking, I believe, worldwide, I think it's 26 million people. And I think in the United States, they're saying about 50,000. To Allie's point about who gets into this isn't choice. The average age to enter, and I hate to say the word life, but for lack of a better word, we'll just use life, 13 or 14 years old. These are kids. We've had testimony at our subcommittee at the City of Phoenix. Happy to be appointed chair by Mayor Stanton and really appreciate his efforts on this issue. You know, we heard from people who gave horrific stories that you or I would be just devastated beyond belief if it happened to us. And we're adults. And then they said, remember, we were 14 when this was happening. It's appalling, and we're going to try to do everything we can to put a stop to it here in Arizona.
So if the evidence doesn't necessarily show
this is a day-to-day activity, is my point.
Yeah, but I think the Super Bowl would offer an opportunity to get that kind of information out, if nothing else.
Human
correct?
trafficking tends to travel with big events. It tends to travel places with tourism events, conventions. It's not just a Super Bowl. There's lots of other big events. We are obviously a tourism-based economy. We have access to the border. We have good transportation. Things that, frankly, most people would think of as good things and maybe why they moved to Arizona. Unfortunately, this is one negative, unintended consequence, and we want to stamp it out here.
How do you stamp it out, Super Bowl or otherwise?
Well, you have to have awareness about it and make sure that folks know how to access resources. We need to make sure that there are policies in place that ensure that those who are soliciting sex, especially for minors, are properly held accountable so that there are disincentives for people to actually participate in human trafficking.
Have we seen an increase in those disincentives? Have the policies changed over the years?
There have been some significant changes. Our legislature has made some changes. I know the city actually just recently passed a change today, so there's...
About an hour ago.
About an
So
hour.
very about
It
as recent
just
as you can get.
happened.
All right, well, we got breaking news here.
Yes.
What happened down there?
Well, we're trying to make it, I was appalled to find if you get arrested in a prostitution sting, and that's usually the way people get arrested. We're only arresting about 130 Johns a year. So the people who are out, I hate to use the word procuring, but again, for lack of a better word, out procuring these services from a lot of times underage women. It's just disgusting. Those people were losing their car for 30 days, but they weren't even usually going through the booking process down at county. So for anybody who's seen TV shows like The Wire, or Hill Street Blues, or something like that, the very grim confines of a county jail, that's what we're talking about here. And these people were just getting a criminal cite and being released. That's not acceptable anymore. We passed it with the emergency clause this afternoon. So you will now get the full boat experience of going down, being fingerprinted, run through the system, sitting with other people who are committing awful crimes. If you've ever taken a tour down there, one thing they tell you repeatedly, wash your hands. They're continually, the reason it's a really grimy place you don't want to go. And when we catch people, because a lot of times these people aren't criminals in other walks of life. They're not all bank robbers or drug dealers. They're accountants or CPAs, I'm sad to say, or lawyers. It's very frustrating. We're going to try to make this as unpleasant an experience as possible so you will never be a repeat offender.
Last question here regarding the Super Bowl's impact on these activities. Some folks say it's a waste of law enforcement resources if the numbers, if the data, the empirical evidence isn't showing a huge increase. All of a sudden, if you start patrolling bars and you start patrolling areas, it may not be the best use of resources. How would you respond to that?
Well, we need to be doing this all the time. I mean, I think it's not like Councilman Waring said, it's not just during the Super Bowl. We need to make sure that we are patrolling these areas and making sure that any criminal activity or suspect activity is looked at on a regular basis. And one of the projects has been around training hotel employees to be able to recognize when something just doesn't look right. You can kind of see, you know, an older man coming in with a young girl who maybe is dressed a certain way. There's some indication there that something's not right, and maybe you should call the authorities.
All right, we will stop it there. Good information. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate
much. We appreciate it. Thank you.
it. And Thursday on Arizona Horizon, find out how Governor Ducey's state budget might impact kids, and we'll hear from the new director of the Morrison Institute for Public Policy. That's Thursday evening on Arizona Horizon. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.